My name is B.J. Lawson. I'm a congressional candidate in North Carolina's 4th District.
Okay, my name is John Monroe. I'm on the steering committee of the Granville Nonviolent Action Team. Okay, Mr. Lawson, or Dr. Lawson,
yes.
Actually. What is your position about this NBAF lab that's being proposed for Butner?
I think, frankly, that NBAF is a disaster waiting to happen. And I say that both as a concerned citizen, a father of 3 young children, and a physician, having seen the dangers that we expose ourselves to on a daily basis. The more I've been following and getting involved in the NBAF controversy, it's clear to me that this is an area where the federal government has grossly overstepped its bounds in terms of infringing on the private property rights of local citizens. There's no question that the hazards here and the risks outweigh any potential benefits. These are not the kind of jobs we want to bring to the area. We need to be free to grow our own businesses and our own value in the community and not bring this kind of stuff that puts all of us at risk.
Now, what do you say to those who argue that there is some sort of national patriotic position here, and that the nation needs to have these types of facilities to study exotic diseases so that our food supply or our citizens are safe?
I say follow the money. If you look at the sort of corporate welfare and mismanagement that goes on within the Department of Homeland Security, this looks and smells like a typical corporate gravy train where you've got people that have a lot to gain financially but very little interest in actually protecting the security of Americans. We have, even at the federal level, we have a legacy of folks who have devoted their lives to public health. We've got the National Institutes of Health, we've got the Center for Disease Control, and the idea that the Department of Homeland Security is, as a completely separate bureaucracy, going to be taking ownership of extraordinarily hazardous biological agents. It just boggles the mind. It doesn't make any sense.
So, in terms of the Department of Homeland Security, which I understand is a young agency, one of your concerns is that it would not have the capacity to manage a lab of this size.
Well, it's more, even more than capacity. It's just competence. I mean, if you look at the way Homeland Security works, it is traditionally become a gravy train for contractors. So the folks that end up doing a lot of the work associated with Homeland Security projects aren't even necessarily government people. They tend to be folks that, are government contractors working to take money out of the federal government. It's frankly money that we don't have to spend. So I object to it on philosophical grounds in terms of the way the federal government is taking and driving down the value of private property owners' property here by putting something that is tremendously hazardous in our backyard, as well as on the grounds that the Department of Homeland Security is way outside of its core competence, if it even has a core competence with respect to managing and looking at biological agents. There's a reason why historically this sort of work has only been done offshore. This is the idea that you're going to start moving this sort of lab with exposure to this sort of agents to an onshore facility within 50 miles of 2 million people it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
In terms of Butner having a number of other federal facilities and state facilities, do you have any particular concerns about, other than what you've just mentioned, Butner being a potential site?
Well, I spent a fair amount of time up here when I was in training. I'm a physician. I was trained at Duke Medical School. I spent a fair amount of time at the mental hospital. You've got a lot of folks up here who require special assistance, who are vulnerable populations, and the idea that you're going to just locate something like this in their backyard is, I think, quite frankly, an abomination. If you look at the folks who seem to be supporting this, if you've got folks that are running the veterinary school at NC State that think this is a great idea, great. Why don't you put it right next door to the veterinary school? But the idea that you can just put it up here where people aren't going to be able to organize and fight back, I think it's disingenuous at best. And I'm gratified to see the citizens rallying around this cause, because this is absolutely something where people need to use some common sense and realize that this is one gravy train, this is one pork barrel project that we don't want in the 4th District, if anywhere on the mainland United States.
And that brings up an interesting point, because David Price, the current congressional representative for the 4th District, has been on record saying that he's very much in support of this lab, and he outlines a number of reasons, but it sounds like your views sharply differ from his regarding this lab.
That's correct. I couldn't disagree with him more on this particular issue. I think this is a clear example of how his interests have diverged from the interests of the citizens he's supposed to represent. He, in an effort to win favors and win votes, likes bringing pork back from Washington. But again, it's money we don't have to spend. We've got a $9.2 trillion debt. We're driving ourselves into debt to foreign countries on a daily basis. And the idea that we're going to spend more money to fund more government bureaucracy and more government contractors to land a hazardous waste dump right in our backyard is not at all in the interest of his citizens. And I'm shocked that he doesn't realize that, but I'm happy to be part of the fight to fight back.
Well, one last question then. In terms of our goal, NAT's goal, to oppose and defeat the potential siting of this lab here, what type of advice can you give us from a political point of view that we can increase our message and increase our ability to fight this lab?
Well, honestly, just having been following the work that you all have been doing through your nobio.org website and the activism that I've seen locally, even in Wake County and the Raleigh area, I think you're doing a fantastic job. This is all about waking up the grassroots. Your use of technology and use of the internet has been excellent. Other suggestions I give would be getting a Facebook group together if you've got some folks who are on Facebook, and creating a cause on Facebook, which is a great way to meet and mobilize young people. MySpace is another alternative to consider. But in addition, it's just like you're doing, getting the word out, and then also being very proactive in letting people know how they can get involved, what venues they need to show up wearing what T-shirt, so that people can see that there is a grassroots army mobilized to fight this, and that we're going to stand up for our rights. The other thing, frankly, that I would advise people to do is start taking a hard look at your elected officials and at your candidates who are running for office, and reach out and support candidates who are going to support private property rights, who are going to support limited government and self-government, because what's going on here is you've got a situation where big government is married up with big business, and we don't like these results.
Well, BJ, thank you very much for today's interview. I wish you luck, and certainly the things you're saying today are very encouraging for what our objectives are, and we hope that we can continue to work together on trying to defeat this lab.
Thank you very much. We're looking forward to it as well.
You know, what you were saying before about what your concerns about the plant is.
All right. My concerns is about the mental patients. If something did go wrong, what we would do with them, and the institutions for the prisoners, where you going to take them if something goes wrong? They're locked up. You ain't got nowhere else to take them. And then I'm concerned also, you know, for my family, if something goes wrong, you know, we have to just stay here and not be able to leave, or what? That's my biggest concern, I guess. And